What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, scratch-made, cheesy, amazing jalapeno popper sausage boats. That's right, folks. We made our own jalapeno cheddar sausage, opened them up, stuffed them with cream cheese and bacon and cheese, threw them on the smoker, and now it's time to find out, will I have a heart attack? Coming up. This is some meat. Pat it dry. And what I've got here is a chunk of some lean brisket as well as some pork belly. This is kind of my typical ratio I go for when I'm making a sausage. But today we're making a different type of sausage that I've never made before, but I have been seeing it all over my Instagram feed for the last couple years. And that is the sausage boat. And if you haven't heard of that, essentially you take a raw sausage of any kind of slice it down the middle, open it up, fill it with cream cheese, cheddar cheese, whatever you like, throw it on the smoker and call it a day. And with football season in full swing and tailgating parties and the big game coming up, I always like to tackle a couple of these kind of gimmicky tailgate items every year just to see if they're really good or if they're worth making at all. But I like the sounds of this one. It's sausage, cream cheese, cheddar cheese, and jalapenos, essentially a jalapeno popper sausage boat, and it seems pretty easy to do. But like I mentioned, you can grab whatever store-bought sausage you like, but I like to make my own sausage, so that's what we're gonna make some today. And flavor-wise, it's really up in the air. You can do whatever you want, but I think a jalapeno cheddar sausage just seems like the right move here. But as always, to get started, I'm gonna get this meat nice and cubed up so it freezes really quickly and fits in our meat grinder a little bit easier. And for those of you keeping score at home, that is 3 pounds of brisket lean and 2 pounds of pork belly going into the freezer to get nice and cold. Spices for our sausage today include some kosher salt, some black pepper, granulated garlic, granulated onion, paprika, some dry mustard, and some milk powder as our binder. And just get that all nice and mixed up. Very basic sausage flavor profile today, because we're gonna rely on the jalapeno and the cheese to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And now that our meat is nice and cold, through the grinder we go. I've also got 4 pretty massive jalapenos I'm going to send through the grinder at the same time. Got the coarse die on here today, and we're going to go through once. Beautiful. Nice clean grind on that. You can see a lot of good fat studdage, and that jalapeno is nicely ground up as well. So now in we go with everything else, including our spices, and we'll just go ahead and make sure this is evenly dispersed. And then our liquid component, which is just some water today, just to hydrate all those spices and help make things nice and tacky. Give that a thorough mix for a couple of minutes. The water really does make it a lot easier to mix this stuff up. And once it's all starting to come together, starting to look nice and tacky, we can go in with our cheese. This is just some high temp cheddar cheese, but you could use whatever kind of cheese you like. I like the high temp stuff because it doesn't goo out all over the place, and it also comes pre-cubed, which is convenient. But we're just gonna fold all this in, trying to make sure it's nice and evenly dispersed. And after about 5 minutes of mixing and kneading, we've got a nice looking cheesy homogeneous sausage, feeling nice and sticky. So now it's time to case it up. Going on with some natural hog casings today. I believe these are 32 mil. Tie it off. Snip, le tip. And we case. Gonna go for some really average, normal-sized weens today. Although you could make these kind of tiny. That'd be pretty cute, actually. But I wouldn't suggest making them too big. But just something like that. It's been a minute since I made a good classic jalapeno cheddar link. Pretty excited about it. But again, I've seen all sorts of recipes for these. Some use like breakfast sausage or a brat, or an Italian would probably be pretty good. But if this turns out all right, we might need to do some experimenting. Like a buffalo chicken one, full of buffalo chicken dip. And just like that, casing number 1 complete. Number 2, tie it off, snip the tip, and we keep going. And just like that, all cased up, no blowouts or anything like that, looking nice and plump and nice and cheesy. So now I'm gonna go ahead and stick these in the fridge overnight. And that is certainly not a necessary thing to do. We could very easily cut into these right now and proceed with the recipe, but it's already starting to get dark. And I always like to give an overnight rest on sausage when I have the time, because 1, it's gonna allow that salt to work on the meat. 2, it's gonna allow time for those spices to hydrate. 3, the meat is gonna continue to bond overnight, giving us a better texture on our links. But most importantly, it's gonna help dry out these casings a little bit, shrinking them to the meat so they're nice and snappy. And also, tomorrow we'll be able to snip these all apart without blowing the ends out. So, into the fridge these go, uncovered on a wire rack overnight. 1 overnight rest later. You can see these are looking a little bit darker in color, definitely more dry to the touch. Casings are looking nice and tight. You can see a lot more cheese now than you could last night. And these are all looking perfect. So now all we got to do is get these all snipped apart. And just like that, we've got jalapeno cheddar cheese sausage mountain. Looking absolutely beautiful. And these are fresh sausages, meaning they don't have any pink curing salt in them, which is fine by me because I don't plan on cold smoking these, especially for what we're doing today. But I'm definitely not gonna make all of these today. So what I'm probably gonna do is cook most of these up to about 140, 150 internal, cool them down, then vac seal them, pop them in the freezer for a weeknight meal. But for the select few, we're gonna load them up with some cream cheese, bacon, and cheddar cheese and throw them on the pit. But before we make that filling, we gotta fire up the pit. One of these days, I'm gonna make a boat out of that pesky little snake in my boot. And while that pit comes up to temp, we're gonna go ahead and throw on some cream cheese, and that's because, per usual, I forgot to pull this out of the fridge, so it's still really cold. And we want this to be a little bit softened. And you could throw some rubs and stuff on these right now if you wanted to, but again, we're gonna be making a dip, so to speak, so we're just really trying to get some smoke on it, but mostly soften it up. And after about 20-30 minutes, our cream cheese should be nicely softened. Again, not really trying to cook it too much or get too much smoke on it, just trying to soften it up. But definitely got some smoke on that top. Definitely looking a little bit different in color. So into a bowl we go. And at this point, you can do literally whatever you want to do. You could throw some more jalapenos in there. I was really close to throwing some pickled jalapenos in there, but we're gonna put those on top. And we've already got a bunch of jalapenos in the sausage, so I don't think we need to add any to the filling. But I'm gonna go in with some Chud rub, add a little extra flavor, make sure this cream cheese is nicely seasoned. And it's got a lot of black pepper in it, but any rub you like would be great. I'm also gonna go in with a bunch of bacon bits because we are making a jalapeno popper sausage boat today. So we gotta have some bacon somewhere. And then of course, some sharp cheddar cheese going in. And we're just gonna get that all folded together and mixed up. And although it seems a little unhealthy, I think this is gonna be really tasty. Going with some more rub. And I'm just gonna kind of taste and adjust to make sure this is nice and flavorful on its own. But we don't want it to be too salty because it is being stuffed into a sausage after all. And a little more bacon, why not? Diet ends today. And I'm going somewhat light on the cheddar cheese in this filling because I'm very likely going to sprinkle some on top at the end of this cook, but this is starting to look really tasty. Can confirm. Now that this is tasting where I want it to be, I'm gonna pop this in the fridge for a couple minutes just to firm up a little bit, to make it a little easier to load, because it is a bit warm after being on that smoker. And while we wait for that stuff to chill, let's go ahead and do some wiener surgery. And to do so should be pretty straightforward. We're gonna grab one of our nice plump little wiens, looking very nice. I'm gonna go on the inside of the curve, that way if it does curl up, it's a boat after all. And I'm gonna take a knife and we're just gonna do a slit right through the casing, not quite all the way through. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and try and open this bad boy up a bit, flatten it out, make a nice little cavity, kind of like a twice baked potato, except it's a sausage potato skin, something like that, giving us a nice little canoe for all of our cream cheese. And I may have put too much cheese in this sausage, so I guess we'll find out. Is there such thing as too much cheese? I don't know, but I'm gonna knock out a couple of these. Might as well while we're here. So far this is working out pretty well. I thought I might have made these too plump because a lot of people do this with store-bought sausage, which is not nearly as plump as these nice and plump little wiens. And one more. Looking good. And to get these loaded up is super simple. I'm gonna grab some of our now slightly more firm cream cheese, roll it into a little log. We're just gonna press that right on in, making sure to keep the shape where I want it to be. And I'm not gonna mound these too tall because even I'm looking at this with a little bit of a artery clogging lens, but something like that is looking pretty much perfect to me. And yes, I did make way too much of this cream cheese filling, but it can be used for a lot of things, like a regular jalapeno popper or just a dip. Beautiful. I will say I was pretty skeptical about this being one of those kind of gimmicky things to do, but it's a pretty cool technique. And off the top, I don't know who came up with this, but I'm sure y'all do. So shout them out in the comments down below. And now that we got these all loaded up, I'm gonna go on with a little more Chud rub right on top for a little extra flavor, a little more black pepper, and to help the color a little bit. And this original Chud rub is pretty low sodium, so I'm not too concerned about it. Beautiful. So now all we're gonna do is throw these on the pit. Got this pit fired up to about 300, 275 degrees. Gonna pop them right about there and just let them cook for probably 30, 45 minutes. Really shouldn't take long. We're just trying to make sure that sausage is cooked through and that cream cheese is nice and melty. We're about an hour into this cook and these guys are looking nice, holding their shape, looking nice and plump, getting some decent smoke color on there, not too much discoloration on the cream cheese either, which is a good sign. I just probed this guy right there. It's rocking around 155 internal, so we're pretty close to pulling these off. But at this stage, for the last few minutes of this cook, I'm gonna go on with a little extra cheese. And I didn't put this on at first because I think it would over melt and get kind of like rubbery on top, where I want this to be nice and gently melted, which is why I'm putting it on at this point. Although it really doesn't need it. There's plenty of cheese in this bite already, but you know, it's gotta look good too. So now I'm gonna shut this down for another probably 10, 15 to let that cheese melt and we'll pull them off. And just like that, ow! After about an hour, hour 15 or so, off the pit these come, looking nice and cheesy, nice and smoky, still nice and plump, and nothing went wrong, which is great. You know, I was worried these were gonna curl up or explode or do something weird, but I'm liking how these are looking. So I'm gonna let these hang out and rest for probably another 10, 15 or so, then we'll garnish them up and see how they came out. And now that these heart stoppers have indeed cooled down, we're gonna go ahead and pull them off the rack. And to finish these off, I'm gonna go down with a few chives for a little bit of freshness and color, and for a little bit of acidity and a bit more kick, some pickled jalapenos that I made a while back. 3 each. 1, 2, and 3. And just like that, our jalapeno popper sausage boats are done. I will say, folks, I'm kind of liking the presentation. As ridiculous as it may seem, it's a nice little package. But let's slice in and see how they look. Now, I will say, I think this is more a line of something that you'd slice up and everyone gets a bite or two of, rather than one per person. But for now, I'm just gonna cut one right down the middle. Ooh, that looks ridiculous. Nice smoky, cheesy sausage, stuffed with all that flavor. Yeah, that looks pretty good. But I am gonna cut this into some more manageable sized bites. Again, this is more of a bring to a football game kind of thing. First bite. Whoa. Wow, that is just an explosion of flavor and cheese. I mean, it's really not surprising that that's super tasty. I mean, it's a delicious jalapeno cheddar sausage thrown on the offset smoker with bacon and cream cheese and a lot of cheddar cheese, and don't need an ice cream after this. But yeah, that is fantastic. That sausage is nice and juicy, very cheesy, nice and creamy. Good amount of heat, but definitely not overpowering. The pickled jalapeno on top. The jalapeno on top really does add a nice little pop of acidity and brightness. And yeah, that's very tasty stuff. The texture, it's so creamy, so cheesy. That really is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's the flavor of a jalapeno popper and a jalapeno cheese sausage just put together. That is phenomenal. Very mild on the heat too, even though there's a bunch of jalapeno involved in this recipe. But honestly, I'd probably kick it up next time. But then again, you never know with those fresh jalapenos if they're going to be super spicy or not. But juicy, cheesy, super savory, I'm here for it. And honestly, for being probably the most unhealthy thing I've ever made on this channel, it's not nearly as much of a gut bomb as I was expecting. I kind of like the presentation too, you know, everything stays together. Nice juicy sausage, pretty tasty stuff. Brooke, would you like to try a jalapeno popper sausage bomb boat?
Yeah, this looks rich.
Yeah, a little bit. Ooh.
This is good, but holy cow.
It's a bit much.
It's a lot, it's rich.
Very cheesy.
I don't think I could finish a whole one.
Oh, no, definitely not. I mean, I could, but I won't.
Wouldn't feel great afterwards. But cut these in little bites, have them out as hors d'oeuvres. Horse d'oeuvres. I love anything with cream cheese in it.
Yeah, it's always good. Yeah, I don't know how many times I would make these because of, you know, heart health, but
yeah,
they definitely are super tasty.
Well, when you're watching football, you're not really thinking about
That's true. That's true.
bit.
I was also thinking about doing this with like a sheep casing.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, you know, a little breakfast style link. So it's not nearly as girth-tastic. Yeah, I've seen these all over the internet for a while, and I thought I'd give them a stab, and they definitely are very tasty.
Yeah, no, they're very good, and I like the little zest of the jalapeno.
One bite. No.
No.
Should I put this in a bun for you? Make a little sandwich?
Oh my god.
That's what it's missing. Some carbs.
My arteries are closing as we speak.
I like the flavor though. It really does taste like a jalapeno popper.
And it's got a small kick, but it's not crazy. I gotta go.
It's so melty. The cheesy flavor is addicting, and I need to stop.
Yeah, how much have you had before I came on?
I had like 3 of them. I took 2 of them and I put them together and just went to town.
Oh, well, thank you.
Now, before I probably have another one, I think it's time for the official taste test. Ooh, yeah. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic smoky jalapeno popper sausage boats. I highly recommend giving this one a try, especially if you've got any big football plans coming up, because if you don't make your own sausage, they really come together pretty quick, and they're super easy to make, and you can do them on whatever kind of cooker you got. You know, you could pop these in the oven, you could do them on a pellet grill, throw them offset on a kettle or a Chud grill or something like that, and they really are quite tasty. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all of these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!